Peace be with you, and welcome to GNN, the Good News Network, as we seek to accentuate the positive and eliminate the negative in our everyday living. I am here. Those three powerful words, namely, I am here, contain or define the essence of the divinity of your identity and my identity, namely that we are spirit beings robed or clothed in flesh. First and foremost, we are spiritual beings practicing to be human, not human beings attempting to become spiritual. That's what this network is all about. That is what the good news is all about. It's bringing us into the realm of the I am thought, that the name of Yahweh is I am who I am that I am. It's contained in the Bible, in the sacred scriptures. In the Old Testament, the Hebrew scriptures known as Exodus, the book of Exodus, chapter 3, verse 15, God is asked his name. Never before in the context of human history had the Creator, the Lord of the universe, the primordial mover, the one who is the ground of our being, the one who is Alpha and Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end, never had been asked by anyone in all of creation as to what was the name of this entity. It was Moses in the desert, called and chosen by God to go to Pharaoh and say, let my people go. To go to the Israelites and said, the hour of your salvation is at hand, that God has heard your plaintive cry, and that Moses, having spoken, having had this theophany or this divine manifestation of the presence of God, asked this entity, well, what is your name? When I go to Pharaoh and I say to Pharaoh, God spoke to me and said, let my people go. And what am I to say to the Israelites when I say to them, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob has sent me to you to say that your hour of liberation is at hand? What shall I tell them is his name? God had to think about it for a moment. As I often said, God had to scratch his anthropomorphic head. Anthropomorphism is when we attribute human qualities to God, who is divine, and that is impossible. We cannot define God out of the context of who we are. If anything, we come to know who God is by the presence of the invisible spirit of the living God dwelling within us. But God has never, ever given a name other than when we heard it in the book of Exodus. And that's the only place where we hearing God define who God is. I am that I am. I am who I am. God says everything that I am is contained in me. And guess what? Everything that God is, God has deposited within each and every one of us. We are the repositories. Hear that. Catch that, if you will. We are the repositories of God. God dwells in us. The invisible God, who is omnipresent or ubiquitous, anywhere and everywhere at the same time. God who cannot be constricted, God who cannot be limited, cannot be restricted. God dwells in you, and God dwells in me. God dwells in us. We came forth out of the oneness of God. Each and every one of us came out of the one God. Isn't that incredible? How can that be? That each and every one of us came out of the same essence or nature that is the one God. We are monotheistic. Mono in Greek, the prefix mono, M-O-N-O, means one. And theist or theist means God. So a monotheist is one who believes in one God. We believe in one God, and that this God has sent each and every one of us forth by breathing the breath of eternal life, by breathing divinity in that corporeal mass that formed in our mother's womb at the time when there was the procreative act taking place, and God instilled the breath of life into that corporeal mass, and we became living souls, living beings, as said in Genesis, as recorded in Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. There is no life apart from God. There is no life other than the life of God dwelling in each and every one of us. That is the mystery of life itself, that it is God's life, not our life, living in us. We are the temples of God. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 16, and 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 19 stated very clearly, do you not know, are you not aware that you, the one looking at this screen right now, the one looking at me, that you are a temple of God, that God dwells in you. Can you believe it? Can you accept that teaching of our faith? That God lives in you, that the eternal God, the creator, it blows my mind when I think about it. That the creator of the world, the creator of the universe, the galaxies, the stars, the moon, the sun, the planets, all of it, the oceans, the rivers, the lakes, the creeks, the mud puddles, the land, the vast land, the birds in the air, the cattle grazing on the field, the fish swimming in the sea. That God, the creator of all, who fills the universe, that all of God's glory permeates every aspect of our world, of our being, that this God, the creator, the Lord of the universe, the one who was before there even was a was, and the one who will be when is and was are no more, that God dwells in you, and in you, and in you, and in me. Woo! That in and of itself blows my mind. I am totally swept away in coming to penetrate the mystery of that article of faith, that God is mine and that God is yours, and that this God that is breathing within us, whenever you breathe, whenever you inhale or exhale, realize that that's a sign of God's presence in you. even if you do not acknowledge it, that is God present in you, in me, in us. The breath of God. Every time we breathe, as the song says, every breath you take, every step you make, God is in us. It's because of the presence of God. And what we need to focus on in this broadcast today, as we speak about the power of positivity, that's our theme this week, the power of positivity. In other words, being positive in our thoughts, being positive in our words, being positive in our deeds, in our actions, and in our reactions, particularly in our reactions toward one another, that we want to have as a sub-theme today, tap into your divinity. Tap into your divinity. I want to say it again, tap into your divinity, because that's where the rubber meets the road. That's how we unravel all of the challenges of everyday living. That's how we conquer by the power of the word, by the blood of the Lamb, and by the power of our testimony, as found in Revelation. They have overcome the powers of evil. They have overcome the devil by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of testimony. The testimony that you and I give each and every day must focus on the reality that God lives in us, that God dwells in us, that is God's life present in us, and that it is in God that we live, move, and have our being. That apart from this breath, apart from this divine source, apart from the divinity in us, we cannot accomplish or achieve anything. We have to be consciously aware at every moment of our human existence that we are spirit beings robed or clothed in flesh, that it is the divinity in us that has to spring forth in order for us to do all things through Christ, through that anointing that strengthens us. Oh, the mystery of our faith. I love our faith. Without faith, we could conquer nothing. With this faith, we can conquer anything. We can move the unmovable. We can search the unsearchable, and as I often play a word, we can unscrew the inscrutable. Thank you, Father Clarence Williams, who said that some 40 plus years ago. We can do that. We can achieve that if we tap into our divinity. Our name, our original name, is not what we go by every day, what is on our birth certificate. That's not our first name. That's not really our real name. In fact, the name that you and I possess, this name, George Augustus Stallings Jr., that I bear, my father's name, and the name that I passed on to my eldest son, Shin, those names are only temporary. They're just names attached to us to identify us one from the another. I read recently that the world population has now reached a total of 8 billion people. 8 billion. There are 8 billion of us currently living on the face of the earth, and we cannot all go by our original name, or else the authorities would not be able to identify us, and we don't know who would be in trouble or locked up. But our original name is God. Yes, our original name is God because we have existed from all eternity in God. We came out of the oneness of God. And therefore, if we came out of that one entity, our name has to be what is the name of that entity. I am who I am. That's why we say I am, or I'm, or the contraction I'm, because our real name comes out of our divine essence. It comes forth out of being an offshoot, a cell, or a seed of the one God. And when we physically die, we're going to return unto that one God. We're going to be all in that one God. We're not going to have zillions of people roaming around in that state of perfect peace and life and light. We're going to all be one with God, and we will be wherever God is. The word says that. In Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 7, it says that one day the dust from which these bodies have been made shall return to the earth from whence they came, but the spirit, or the life breath, shall return unto God who gave it. That's what the word says. Wow. We will be one with God in full total consciousness that God possesses. In the totality of the consciousness that God possesses, we will have that. We will own that. We will be as God is. We will, if anything, that will be what will distinguish us from having come forth out of the oneness of God, living here on earth, fulfilling our mission, our purpose to manifest and to make God visible and tangible in the world. And then when we return unto that source, we will possess that consciousness that we are one with God. I think that's what it is. I've been struggling to find it, but I've been doing a book on this whole subject and getting ready for press, and I've been searching, what will we know? What will be the difference between us having come out of God and then returning unto God? We did not have a consciousness of our presence in God before we came forth by being blown, the divine energy or breath being blown into that corporeal mass in our mother's womb. The difference will be that when we return unto God, after having sojourned here on earth, we will possess the consciousness of God, whatever that is. Because God's ways are not our ways, and God's thoughts are not our thoughts. As it says in Isaiah chapter 55, for as high as the heavens are above the earth, so are the Lord's ways above our words. So are the Lord's ways above our ways, and the Lord's thoughts above our thoughts. But I believe that's it. When we return unto the source after physical death, after we have succumbed to the forces of death, physical death, and the spirit of the living God which makes us live, move, and have our being returns unto the source, namely returns unto God from whence it came, we will possess the consciousness, the divine, the fullness, we will possess the fullness of the divine consciousness of God. We will be one with God and engage in God as one entity. We won't be concerned about our past lives. We won't be concerned about even our loved ones that we left behind, because ultimately we will all be one. And that's what matters. We're not concerned about earthly or mundane things when we physically die. Those won't be important. They have no meaning. They have no significance. It will be the fullness of the divine consciousness of God and the presence of God. We will be embedded in God, so we will be wherever God is. And I believe God is here right now. God is in our midst. God is where you are. God is where I am. God is everywhere. We will be that way. Our loved ones who have physically died are with God. They are everywhere God is. It's a mystery. And we will not totally and truly understand that mystery until we have crossed over, as they say. So our real name, our fundamental name, our original name, original, is God. Not with the individual specificity of who we are now, but having been in God, having come forth out of the essence of God. That's what it means when God says, let us make man in our own image and after our likeness. We came forth out of God, bearing the image and likeness of God, bearing divinity. So the question is, are you tapping into your divinity? Not only every day, but every moment. Are you consciously aware of the divine presence dwelling within you? Think about it for 30 seconds before we continue the broadcast. The power of positivity, with the sub theme today: tap into your divinity. And welcome back to GNN. I am here. I am George Augustus Stallings Jr., the patriarch and founder of Imani Temple, African American Catholic congregation, headquartered in Suitland, Maryland, within the shadow of the capital of the United States of America. If you are here and you believe in the essence of the divinity of your identity, that you believe that your original name was God because you came forth out of the essence of God, please go to your comment section on your viewing page and type in those 3 empowering, definitive words of affirmation. I am here. On Sunday past, I delivered a sermon on the first Sunday of Advent entitled, Open Up and Let God In. Open up and let God in. And I concluded that sermon, that anointed sermon, because it came forth out of the spirit of the living God that was embedded in me. And I just simply shared it with the congregants, the parishioners. I said, the greatest challenge that you and I face in our earthly living has nothing to do with our career, our status, our socioeconomic, geopolitical background, our race. Has nothing to do with our race, nothing to do with our creed. It has nothing to do with our sexuality. It has nothing to do with our wealth, our power, our position of power and fortune and fame. Our greatest challenge, while the breath of the living God dwells within us, is how do we come to recognize the presence of God, not only in ourselves, but in each other. That's the greatest challenge faced by humanity today. Can you see God in you? Do you believe that God is in you, the God of creation, living in you as its sanctuary, as its temple? And can you see the God in others? If you have a concept of a greater challenge, I'd like to know it. I'd like for you to share it with us, because there can be no greater challenge than seeing the God in self and seeing the God in each other. Because once that occurs, once we see God in self and God in each other, we will have heaven right here on earth. Because if I'm only seeing God in you, how can I criticize you? How can I condemn you? How can I judge you? If I see God in you, how can I allow you to go hungry? If I see God in you, how can I allow you to be homeless? If I see God in you, how can I see you imprisoned? Because if we could seek the God in each other, there would be no need for the prison industrial complex, which is the largest growing enterprise in America today. The construction of prisons, and more prisons. There would be no need for prisons. There would be no need for hunger. There would be no need for welfare. There would be no need for any programs that we would have to depend on in order to subsist and survive. We would not have to worry about because if we can subsist on the bounty of this creation, if it is controlled by those who see God in each other and in self, there would be no limitations. There would be no restrictions. There would be no need or want, because we would look at one another and treat one another, I hope, in the manner that we treat the Creator, G major. The reality is we cannot see God in each other because we struggle to see God in self. The way we have been taught by church authorities, the manner in which we have been restricted from coming into a full awareness of the divinity that resides within us and allow that divinity to reign in us in every aspect of everyday living, is because the church fears that if we come to really know who we are, we might not need the church anymore. And why? What would be wrong with that? What would be wrong with us coming to such a spiritual level of enlightenment and spiritual maturation and perfection that the church would no longer be needed? The church was only created, the institutional church was only created or established to help guide us, to direct us back to that path where we can see God in each other and in self. But the reality is that the hierarchical leaders cannot see God in us. They cannot even see God in themselves. They see God as something to control, to restrict, to manhandle, especially in those institutions that are Eurocentric, male-dominated, racist institutions. They can't see God in us. They can't even see, because they can't even really see God in themselves, because they think that their role is to control God, to dispense God in ounces and in tablets, and in rationing God. That's why they cannot. That's why the world is in the state. That's why the world is going helter skelter. And the ones who are primarily guilty of it are church leaders. I'm saying it boldly and without hesitation. The reason why the world is going to hell in a handbasket is because church leaders have not properly catechized or instructed their membership as to the original name that they possessed before they came into the world, as well as understanding who they are as the offspring of God. Did you ever think of that? Did you ever think of that? The church is not blameless. The church is guilty. And the thing about it is that some of us get so caught up in structure, so caught up in religion, in the format of the rituals of religion, that we cannot even break away from it when there are those among us who show us the way of our real identity, who point us in the direction of reconnecting with the source as it was before sin invaded the planet. Maybe I need to clarify that a little bit, or maybe make it more lucid. There are so many people who are caught up in church structure, church religion, denominationalism, that they cannot see the light when there comes among them prophetic voices that saying the way you've been going, the way you've been doing, and the way you have blindly adhered to a church just because of its denomination, because you've been there for years, or your parents were there centuries ago, your ancestry. You can't break away from these institutions that are holding you in bondage, and seek to connect with institutions that are working for your spiritual liberation, because somehow they have brainwashed you. You've been had, fooled, hoodwinked, and bamboozled. You cannot tap into your divinity because they will not give you access to it. They will not allow you, they will not give you the keys to unlock that virtual door by which you can enter into a space and place where you can discover your real identity. No religion can save you. No church can save you. No temple, no mosque, no synagogue. Your salvation comes when you step into the reality of your who-ness. When you come to discover your real identity, your original name. When you and I pass away, there will never be a question asked by God as to what church did we belong to, what was our denomination. But he will ask, did we love one another? Did we see the God in each other? Did we seek to manifest that divine presence each and every day? That's what really matters. God is not even, and I know this is going to shock some of you, God is not even going to ask you who you slept with last night or last week or last year. He's not going to ask you that. What God is going to ask, did you see me in another? Did you see me using you to manifest my glory? Did you see me in you to draw others to discover the God within themselves, so that they can start looking at others as God present in them? That is where the rubber meets the road. That is how we come to know what the power of positivity can do in changing our world. 30 seconds before the benediction. And now may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord look upon you with kindness and favor and bless you. May the Lord safeguard you in peace. Thank you for tuning in to GNN, the Good News Network. That was some good news today. Be safe, stay cool, calm, and collected, and let us remember to pray for one another. See you tomorrow, same time, same live stream media platform for another GNN, Good News Network broadcast. You need to share this particular video, this program with someone. What we did here today in these past 30 minutes, you need to share this. It's going to go viral. When this message gets out, the world is going to explode. And we're going to continue on the theme, the power of positivity, and how you tap into that divinity each and every day to make a difference, not only in your life and in the life of others, but in our world. I love you madly. Have a blessed and awesome day.